Chicago Police Department is under fire for a botched operation from 2 years ago. That is just now coming to light. Officers raided the wrong home with a search warrant. Surprisingly, social worker Anjanette Young, who was naked at the time and was put in handcuffs for several minutes before being covered up. Video of the encounter, which occurred in February 2019, was released this week during Ms. Young's lawsuit against the city. The footage was taken from officers' body cameras. The city is apologizing to Ms. Young for the incident. Joining me now is the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, who I want to note entered office in May of 2019 and was not mayor when the incident took place. Mayor Lightfoot, simply put, why have the officers involved not been fired or faced disciplinary actions? Notwithstanding the civil lawsuit, why are they still on the job?
Well, that's a good question, Reverend Al. Let me just start by saying what happened to Ms. Young is utterly unacceptable. I saw that video this week, and as a Black woman, it was impossible for me not to go there. You watched the way that those officers invaded her home, denied her her dignity, didn't heed her pleas. It just shatters all your confidence that we have made any progress in police reform. And there has to be accountability. It's unacceptable that those officers haven't been held to account yet. And so, believe me, I'm putting my foot on the accelerator to make sure that that happens. But Reverend, truly, there's a larger systemic problem. The fact that they treated her with such utter disrespect, I'd like to say that she was the only person to suffer that. But as I've dug down into this week, I know that it's deeper and bigger and larger than just this one incident. And of course, happening disproportionately in Black and brown communities. That's not acceptable. And so we've got a larger systemic problem that we absolutely must root out. There can be no more Anjanette Youngs. Not on my watch. That just can't happen again.
And I've come to know you and see your sensitivity and your courage. You walked into schoolyards and stood up to people in the community that deal with gun violence. But why can't you walk in the police station and fire these policemen?
We have an elaborate process here in Chicago. We have an independent civilian oversight. They haven't done what they needed to do. And I'll just tell you, I had some very tough words for the head of that organization to get the job done and get it done quickly. They've had that case open for over a year, no excuses. Here's the thing that's, in addition to what Ms. Young suffered, and there's no question she's a victim here, but other people saw that video along the way, and particularly the folks who were supposedly conducting an investigation. Mm-hmm. Why did they sit on their hands for a year? It makes no sense. There were people all over city government who answered to me, there were people who I know had to have seen that video. Have we really gotten to the point where we've lost our humanity, where we don't raise up the fact that someone has been mistreated as badly as Ms. Young was? That's the answers that I'm demanding, because we've got a larger systemic problem, and I intend to fix it.
Now, this incident reminds me of the botched raid on another Black woman's home, Breonna Taylor in Louisville. If Black Americans can't feel safe in their own homes, this has got to stop. Your office states it has changed the search warrant protocols for future police raids. Please tell me how you intend to do this.
So I have to credit local reporting here over the course of the summer and fall of 2019, and we were seeing these wrong raid cases pop up. So I directed our chief risk officer, a Black woman, to dig into this and recommend any changes that were necessary. So there's a couple of key things that exist now that didn't exist back in February 2019. Number one, you cannot get a search warrant on the basis of information from a paid informant. We're not incentivizing people to give us the wrong information. If somebody gives you a tip that's an informant, you have to corroborate it with a third party who's not being paid. That's an important distinction, and you know how important that is, Reverend Al. Also, like in this instance, where you knew you were in the wrong place, we now require that there is an immediate internal investigation open into the how, who, what, where, and when of how that happened. That didn't exist in February of 2019. The other thing that we've done is ensure that before a search warrant application is presented to a prosecutor and a judge, there have to be two supervisors, two sets of eyes, look in and look at it and certify that the information is true and correct before we even present it to a prosecutor and a court. Now, that change has been in existence since January of this year. We're digging down deep to see have we stemmed the tide or not. And I've instructed my police superintendent to look again, and if there are more changes that need to be made, we will make them. But we've got to make sure that we do everything possible to avoid this kind of thing from ever happening again. And Ravenel, you made the point. Our home should be our sanctuary. When we walk inside our home and close the door, we should be able to keep the rest of the world out. And even if they did a search warrant and the person was involved in criminal activity and evidence of that criminal activity was found in the home, they still deserve to be treated with dignity as any human being does. This was a failure, and we have to fix that.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I want to go to the vaccine, but I agree with that, and I think these reforms are good. But again, I've been talking, you know, I work with Leadership Council there, the Leadership Network, Reverend Ackrey, Reverend Hatch, and others, and I join them. The biggest message is the firing these policemen, and as you mentioned, make those accountable that have seen this tape and allowed this despicable act to go unreported and not made public until it was forced in the courts. But let's turn briefly to the vaccine. It's a known statistic that COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted Black Americans compared to those who are white. What financial and racial challenges does Chicago have to solve in order for all residents to safely and effectively gain access to a vaccine as soon as possible?
Well, financially, there's none because the vaccine is free. We do not want that to be a barrier. That's really a federal mandate, which even if it wasn't a federal mandate, we would have made sure that the vaccine was available to anybody for free. But the larger problem, which you certainly recognize, is first in the Black community. You know that we have a history of not trusting the healthcare system because of the way that our people have been treated by the healthcare system historically. That legacy is still very much present right now, and that is a messaging and education challenge that we have to meet and overcome. We're doing that with trusted community voices, educating those folks on the ground, and then using them as ambassadors to talk to our people about why the vaccine is important. Similar challenges in the Latinx community. Many of the people in Chicago in our Latinx community come from other countries where there's no trust of the government, where there's no trust of healthcare system. They don't want to be connected up with anything related to a government operation. So we've got to overcome those challenges as well with the same approach. Trusted community voices. It's one thing for a mayor to say something. It's something different for somebody you recognize and identify with in your own community. So we're using every lever that we can think of to reach people where they are, educate them about the safety of the vaccine, and then talk to them about how important it is for them to get vaccinated. And of course, we have to do all of this with an eye towards equity and inclusion.
All right, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, thank you for being with us this evening.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.